Well, good morning, everybody. It's Dave coming to you from the office here in the Wyoming house once again. This is part 3 of our Weight Loss Wisdom series. And this is where I start telling you about what I did. So I'm going to take you back to late May, early June, and talk to you about sort of what was my first kind of phase of how I started this process. Talk to you about what I did and what we're attempting to do in that first phase, and then in subsequent videos I'll walk you through the more advanced phases. So essentially I've been at it this almost 6 months, so I'm going to do this probably in sort of an arbitrary kind of monthly process. Phase 1 is the beginner phase, and then I've really laid out kind of the next 4 or 5 phases beyond that, including where I'm heading. Because I am continuing to make changes and do things, even though I'm 6 months into it. And I continue to learn, and I continue to make changes even through today. So we'll discuss that in later videos. But the point of this video is to kick off how to get started, or how I got started. I can't say this is going to work for you. I believe it will, because I believe it's just human anatomy, and I also believe it's kind of science-based, so I believe it will work. But let's talk a little bit about, let's remember what we're trying to do, and then I'll head into what I did to get started. So the first thing I want to do is I actually went to the grocery store yesterday here in downtown Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We have 3 or 4 to choose from. I usually go to Albertsons. But walking in the door, I saw pictures are worth 1,000 words. And so you want to know why we're fat as individuals and as a society? I'm going to show you a series of 4 or 5 pictures as I entered the grocery store. I'm not showing you pictures of the cookie aisles or the cereal aisles or the soda aisles. This is the entry. It was just such a shock to me to see what they're trying to push on us as we walk into the store. So here's just a series of 4 or 5 pictures, and then we'll come back. So if you looked at those pictures and actually took a minute and checked it out, there wasn't one thing on any of those shelves that we should be eating ever. It was just rack after rack after rack of just sugar and carbs, and there wasn't one healthy thing on any of those shelves. That just blew my mind. It's really the first time I've ever paid attention to walking in. So, I knew to ignore the soda aisle, clearly. I knew to ignore the cereal aisle, clearly. The candy aisles. But you just think about how many aisles are just full of things you should never pick from. But I just never saw that the entire entryway, you have to walk through a maze of shit that you should never put in your mouth. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I also got to stick in a little eye candy here. So this is what I got to see out my back window this morning. I caught the perfect morning light. The Grand Teton looked great. So just here's a touch of eye candy, one picture right here. Okay, before I walk you through my first specific steps, I just want to kind of remind you guys of a few things. One, we're trying to do this slow. We're trying to make small incremental changes that stick. We're not going to try this for a couple of days a week or try this for a week. We're trying to, if you're following the plan that I'm following, you're looking for permanent change. And that can be really uncomfortable. I get it. So you start small, and really, I kind of recommend you do these in almost like month-long increments. So just remember, making small changes. They need to stick every day. They need to stick week after week. And then once you've kind of, it's like going to the gym. You kind of build up a little bit of muscle, and then you can add some weight. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're not trying to, we're trying to build new beliefs. We're trying to build new practices. We're trying to build new habits for life, not for the Christmas season, not to get into our swimsuits in June. We're trying to build lifelong change here. We're trying to break bad habits. We're trying to create new habits. And we're trying to get those habits to stick for life. There's a series of things we're not trying to do, guys. We're not trying to gut it out. We're not trying to get to a target weight, right? That could be a result. That could be an end result, but that is not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to get it out. We're not trying to hope I can hit a goal and then go back to normal, right? We're trying to create new normal here. And small changes, incremental, building upon each other, built over time that stick for life. We're not trying to gut it out and then go hit a target and then go back to the way we did things. That's not the system I'm trying to do. That is not the system I'm going to be talking about. All right, the next thing we need to do is review the science. All right, remember what we're trying to do here, big picture, is reduce the amount of insulin in our blood and reduce the amount of time that insulin is in our blood. So we're trying to do two things here. And so let's just keep that in mind as we go through these first few steps. All right, so going all the way back to the end of May and beginning of June, the first few things I started to do was I kind of had to change what I was eating, and I had to change when I was eating it. And the first real change was when. And so I hate buzzwords, but just so I like to decode industry buzzwords. So there's a thing called intermittent fasting, or IF, in this industry. And, what that means is create shorter and shorter eating windows and longer fasting windows. I don't really like all that. It basically means eat fewer meals, eat less at less times during the day, and maximize the amount of time you're not eating anything. And so the first thing I did was I'd eat a late breakfast and serve a regular dinner. And part of the reason I created I've maintained all the way through last night, regular dinner hour, like 6:30 is when I eat my dinner, because that maps to my private life. When I get back home to Maryland, I got wife and kids, and the holidays and all that, and my family likes to have dinner together. And so I needed to maintain that. It's not the healthiest eating window, but I need to maintain it because it maps to my life. And I've said this in prior episodes. You have to map, even what I'm saying to you, it has to map to your life. And so that's just an example of something I had to modify. So anyway, so what I would do is I'd shift and eat a late breakfast, like 10, 11 o'clock, and then I'd eat my dinner at like 6. So I had this sort of 7-hour eating window, and I just got used to not eating at any other time during the day. And I eventually worked that down to a 6-hour eating window for my first few weeks. And some people can say, well, I love to eat breakfast right when I get up, or I have trouble not eating before I go to bed. And even if you were to reduce what you ate, but if you ate at 8 in the morning and 6 or 7 o'clock at night, you're spiking your blood levels twice during the day and at bookends of the day. So quite a bit of your day, go back to the science. Because of when you choose to eat, it's hard to make a lot of progress because you spike your blood sugars, insulin spikes to go with it. It takes a few hours to run it down. And you get this brief little window, and then you do it again. And so most of the day you're at spiked blood levels. And that's why we need to focus on intermittent fasting and decreasing our eating window and increasing the fasting window. So it just basically means eat less food and eat it at less times during the day, and try to get your eating window to close up. But start with a 6-7 hour window, and just get used to that. Let's see. So in addition to kind of decreasing my eating window, I changed what I ate as well. I started lining things out. Like I pretty much lined alcohol out of my life. If alcohol is a regular part of your life, it's every day, 4, 5, 6 days a week, it's going to be nearly impossible to proceed down this path. And I've kind of given it up. I mean, over the last 6 months, the only time I really drink is when I'm out at dinner with friends or out at dinner with my family. And then I have 2 drinks and I'm done. And I've probably done that on the equivalent of about once a month. I've probably done it 6 times since I started this plan. So, I've had the equivalent of basically 2 drinks 6 times over the last 6 months. And I'm sure it spiked my blood levels for that night, but on 6 nights out of 6 months. So I know, if you're someone who's going, I mean, that just causes such internal stress inside you. That's something you kind of have to work through. But one of the first things I cut out was alcohol. The second thing I cut out was sugar. I quit eating sugars. I'm not perfect. When my son was here a few times, we had an ice cream cone. I probably did that 3 times in the last 6 months. So again, that's just something that I had to line out. So I lined out alcohol, I lined out sugar, and then I lined out refined salt. That Morton's, that white ground up ultra processed salt, that had to get out of my life. So those are the 3 big changes I made in the first few weeks. As I reduced my eating window, I started lining out the most horrific part of my diet. I also cut out all sodas. I mean, regular sodas, diet sodas, zero sodas. I moved them all out. It probably took me most of the first month to do that. And here in Wyoming, I'm surrounded by a bunch of guys who love the diets, Cokes and the Coke Zeros and the Dr. Pepper Zeros and all that. And hey, if that works for them and that works for you, that's great. But I've lined it out all out. I pretty much drink water at this point. So, but it took me, I mean, I'm talking to you from 6 months in. It took me a while to get here, but so that's the other thing I would do is I'd start ramping those. Certainly any full strength sodas, those got to get out of your life. But I'd recommend you kill the diets and the zeros too, and mainly start switching your drinking habits to water. Another one is fruit juice. A lot of people pick up juice and think they're drinking healthy. No way. There's as much sugar in most of our juice products as there is in our soda products. So I didn't drink juice. I didn't have to line it out, but and I know it's a huge consumer item. If you drink fruit juice, you probably need to line it out. I mean, your orange juice, your apple juice, your cranberry juice, you need to line them out and start transitioning that to water. So the other thing I did in the first few weeks of my journey was I needed to make sure, because I mean, I don't have that great of willpower, so I can't really have this shit in my house. And so what I started doing over those first 4 weeks was, one, first thing, stop buying it. Stop bringing in sodas into the house. Stop bringing any sweets into the house. Stop bringing any ice cream into the house. Any sort of dessert product. I just stopped buying it. And towards the end of the first month, I actually went through my pantry, my kitchen, my refrigerator, my freezers, and I ended up dumping it out. I got rid of it. So by the end of the first month, not only was I not buying it any longer and bringing none of it into my house, by that end of the first month, I had actually cleansed the house. There was pretty much nothing in the house that would really damage what I was attempting to do. So I pretty much, the last step I would recommend for your first phase is by the end of the first month, be drinking 4 quarts of water a day. And that may sound crazy, but 4 quarts a day means you'll stop drinking all the other stuff. So I drink 4 quarts of water a day in 3 mugs. Just here it is. This is my coffee mug. I drink 3 mugs of black coffee. No sweetener, no creamers, nothing. I mean black coffee that I brew every morning. I'm not Keurig cups or any of that, but and I can talk about high quality coffee later. That's not the point. 3 black cups of coffee, 4 quarts of water. That's what I drink, period, all day long. That's it. And but it took me a month to get there. But that kind of wraps that up. That's the first phase. Can you get to a 6-hour eating window and an 18-hour not eating window? Can you cut out all the sugars? Can you cut out all the alcohols? Can you switch to drinking water? Can you get yourself to drink 3 or 4 quarts of water a day? Can you switch to black coffee? Can you stop bringing in bad food products into your house? And can you purge really bad food products out of your pantries and refrigerators? I mean, I get it. It's easy because I'm sitting here by myself and I've got to translate. Luckily, I've got 6 months behind me when I go home next week. And I realize that you guys probably live with a spouse or a family, and so what's in the house may not be under your control. So can you, in your mind, cordon that off? So that's for my wife, that's for my kids, that is not for me to eat. Anyway, those are my first thoughts on phase 1 for you guys. All right, everybody, that kind of wraps up our 3rd episode, or part 3, and get you started. I mean, it's a fair amount of work to get consistently applied. So by the end of the first phase, you're ready to do. I mean, these steps don't really get a whole lot easier. I mean, they're very simple things to do. The question is, can you do it? Can you do it consistently? Because what you don't want to do is do it on Monday and Tuesday, and then the next 5 days you fall back, and then you try it again on Monday, Tuesday, and then the next 5 days you fall back. And at the end of the month, things are even worse than when you started. And so you've got to focus on getting that first layer stuck, adding the second layer to it. And these are hard things to do, right? Changing what you drink, changing what you eat consistently every day. They're very simple things to do, but not easy. Simple shouldn't be confused with easy. And then and I promise you, the next 2 or 3 phases, the next 2 or 3 months are asking just as much of you. And so you need to get good at this first phase. Guys, that's it. Hope it's helping. I'm enjoying doing this. Never thought I'd be doing a series like this, that's for sure. And that's it. We'll see you on the next video. Bye now.